Panharmonicon presents a podcast.
Fantastic.
That is it's so catchy.
It is.
So
I
catchy.
thought I wasn't going to like it. But maybe it's just because they use it so much, whether it's in the ad marketing, the advertising, multiple times throughout the movie itself.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there and it's the Fantastic Four. You go, okay. Yeah.
It's
I'll give it to you guys.
epic.
And you guys, I'd like to welcome and thank you for listening to another episode of Panharmonicon Presents.
A podcast.
I am Damon.
And this is Farron.
And we are going over what we were just singing about. Fantastic Four. Newest Marvel movie. Newest in the MCU. Number 250.
What is number 250?
This is the 250th movie.
Oh, okay. That's
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
what is the real number? Like 37? Like
Probably.
I know it's very specific. I say that just because I saw it on like a post somewhere, but I don't know if that's accurate. And also, it might be 38 now, I guess. With
Oh, you want to name them real quick? In order.
I'm gonna
Starting
yeah,
with
I can do yeah, no, dude, I can do it. Yeah, Iron Man 2.
Iron Man, Incredible Hulk.
Oh, I already fucked up. Dang. Okay, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America,
Mm-hmm.
Avengers,
Yep.
Thor, Dark World. No. After Avengers, it was Iron Man 3,
Iron Man 3.
Thor, Dark World,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get into 2014. 2014, I think Winter Soldier came out first, before Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
in that year. But I feel like am I missing something? What else came out in 2014? No, that was
I think it was just
those two.
Those two.
Then 2015 comes along. We have Avengers: Age of Ultron, followed by Ant-Man. And then 2016 comes along. We have Civil War
Is Doctor Strange
and Doctor Strange in 2016.
after Civil War?
Yeah, it came out in like November, I think, of 2016.
Okay. I should have been counting as we were going along.
I
get to
I
the
lost count
number.
already.
But
Yeah.
okay, so we're gonna go with 250. And so if you got to see our little preview ahead of this, you know that we both liked it. I myself said that it felt like a restart, kind of to the like this feels like the Iron Man for like whatever comes next
Yeah.
for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I read something where Feige said that he had plans on, like he already got plans ahead for like 3 more phases. So MCU ain't going nowhere unless things go drastically wrong in the next like few years.
So that's 3 more phases, because from everything I've heard, rumors, but after, the whole Avengers Doomsday, I thought there was like a hard reset that's going to happen. So are those phases supposed to like incorporate that hard reset, or are we doing away? Is that
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Okay.
Honestly, it would be weird kind of in the way that I just saw Fantastic Four. It'd be so weird to do a reset. Just simply because if the reset happened, this felt like what would be a reset.
Mm-hmm.
But like, why would you like add these characters and then reset after that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. All I know is he said 3 more phases. We know these guys are showing back up in Doomsday. It should just be called Doom. Honestly, it should have just been called
Doom.
Avengers Doom. And you'd have been like, yep, I get it. Doomsday sounds like, the DC character.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Maybe they did that because they were like, yeah, we got to get Doomsday out there before Superman.
So that James Gunn can't do like a Superman versus he can't name it.
Because he can't be like, because that I think would work. And I think, isn't that the name of the animated movie? Or is it just the death of Superman?
I think it just depends on which one. I don't think Doomsday is usually just like the death of Superman.
Yeah, because I thought I saw something recently that said Superman Doomsday. But
there have been so many animated iterations of that.
yeah, that's true. But like a James Gunn movie called Superman Doomsday works. You would know immediately who the villain is. You'd be like, oh, we're about to get into it. But enough of that. If you want to reiterate how you felt about the movie.
Ooh. You know, I'm getting like I wish that I could just like take notes during the movie, because I find myself like seeing things. I'm like, oh, just remember to talk about this. Remember to talk about this, and I can remember like a decent amount of it, but there are parts that I will forget, and I only say that just because I really want to like dive deep into it and just remember all of the points, because it was a really fun time. Like I said yesterday, this is the first time I've seen a Fantastic Four movie where I was actually stoked, that actually made me excited for that property, dude. Like Fantastic Four honestly has never been like my favorite or top tier Marvel superhero team. I know they were Marvel's first family. I know it was to be a super popular comic, I think, before X-Men, right? And then like some of those other brands came out.
I think that is a big problem that even like the Fox movies faced. And yeah, okay, they're not the greatest of movies, but I think they already faced an uphill battle because of the fact that by the time you got to the 90s, nobody was reading Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there was the whole like at the time it felt more like they were just being interjected into things. I think there was a period of time where like Sue was in the Avengers. There are multiple times where they are not the Fantastic Four as known, and it's like
Future Foundation.
Reed and Johnny with like Hulk and like Wolverine, or She-Hulk taking the place of Johnny, or like there's a whole bunch of like different and kind of weird things going on with them, and as a result, people just that interest dropped. The rise of like the X-Men skyrocketed, and as a result, people weren't looking at them the way they were looking at them in the 60s and the 70s. So they just faced that uphill battle. And you're right. Maybe it sucks that it took so long, but it's a great time to introduce the Fantastic Four, because everyone is already used, like even just normal moviegoers or just people who don't really read comic books, maybe watch MCU movies every once in a while. They already know the Avengers cast, the ones that Marvel had to really try to get you to learn and understand. Like they know the Guardians, they know Doctor Strange, they really found their love for Spider-Man. All these things gave them those characters, and now they get to introduce the Fantastic Four in a way that makes him so fresh, because people weren't even paying attention to the Fantastic Four, and now you have 4 new characters with a great set of like chemistry and betwixt all 4 of them.
Yes,
and almost like power set, and almost all 4 are power sets that haven't been displayed yet.
Yeah.
So they get to have this also great visual flair that didn't exist beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for those of you who didn't know, in 1994, and to be honest with you, I'm not going to remember the actors, but in 1994, there was a Fantastic Four movie that came out, and it's very hokey. I don't even know if this movie ever hit theaters, but I do remember seeing it as a kid and just kind of being, it's one of those movies where you know it can't be that great if at 7 years old you're like, like maybe not, because typically as a kid you kind of just eat up anything, and it wasn't something to write home about. Now 2005 comes along, you get a whole new iteration which featured Chris Evans, who eventually goes on to become our Captain America, which was another franchise that I just didn't think it worked. The chemistry wasn't there for me, and it seemed like it seemed like they were the characters that they brought in, the actors that they brought in were more for the way they looked and their popularity at the time, I guess with the exception of who was playing Mr. Fantastic, because to me he was like a relative. I was not familiar. I forget how to pronounce his name. Iona Griffin or whatever. But I don't know much about his work. But like Jessica Alba, yeah, Chris Evans, you know, he was coming up at the time. Michael Chiklis, I think, was in The Shield at the time. So there's that. And I think him, Chris Evans, they were great. I'm honestly not a fan of Jessica Alba's Sue Storm. I take it or leave it. And then you flash forward to Josh Tranks, I think is his last name, his version of Fantastic Four in 2015. Yet again, absolutely. I remember seeing that with my brother, and we were both sitting there like, this was trash. And it took another just 10 years after that. And finally, guys, after a total of 31 years, we got a great Fantastic Four.
Yeah, we did. And I also just need to say that Andrew brought up the cast list for the 1994 movie. I don't know any of those people.
Yep.
They might as well have just only done that movie and then never did another thing, because they look like all people just got pulled off the street, made this movie, and went about their business.
Honestly, it kind of looks like somebody just went to a local church and like I don't know, Sunday school, and they just grabbed the teachers from Sunday school and said, "Hey, you're going to be in Fantastic Four," and they didn't question it. They said, "We're going to do this for God," because they.
Yeah, I do remember it never went to theater. I don't think I watched it as a kid. I don't think I watched it until like 2000, but it didn't matter because like during the 90s, Marvel couldn't do like up until Blade.
Yeah.
Which wasn't even them. Marvel couldn't do anything. Like they if it's crazy because in the 80s they started Marvel Studios, and at the time it was pretty much primarily used for animation purposes. So who's to tell what would have happened if there was a Marvel Studios the way there's Marvel Studios now back then? But Fantastic Four wasn't it. Punisher wasn't it.
The Dolph Lundgren Punisher? Boy.
Nick Fury, Man of Action was not it. So when we got to the 05 rendition, and you got Fox has now had some time. They've done Spider-Man, Spider-Man's been done by Sony. Fox has done X-Men. So they've got some Marvelness under their belt, and we get what we got, which was a bunch of screenwriters, in my opinion, who thought they knew more. Not knew more. They thought they were better than what they were. And as a result,
it shows. It shows.
It showed pretty heavily. And then they made a sequel, which was not much better. And then they tried again, and they did the same thing again. You tie Doom to Richards. You don't tie Doom to the creation of the Fantastic Four, like as a whole, because Doom is his own person. Doom has its own agenda. Doom has his own agency, and as a result, like he doesn't need to be around them to become Doctor Doom. Even as a kid, like the instant that his mother basically sells her soul to Mephisto, he becomes Doctor Doom. And you don't see that in the movies. You don't see that anywhere else because no one ever wants to give you a Doctor Doom that has like some form of compassion that you can be like, the dude, he doesn't do the greatest things and he's not a good person. But you understand from like a selfish standpoint why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
I say that like Doom is in this movie. He's in it for like the hottest of seconds, and it was okay. I'm actually so glad that
it was just that little bit.
It was just that little bit because it's like, dude, I don't need Doom. You're giving me Galactus. I don't need Doom and Galactus. That's too much. That's like an Avengers level movie right there.
Yeah.
So like, just giving me Galactus and the Silver Surfer is more than enough. But there is something I kind of will say.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was I wanted more or if the pacing was weird. But it felt like when I started to realize the climax was coming, I was like, damn, we're at the climax already? And then like all the falling action started happening. I was like, oh, this movie about to wrap up.
Yeah. So with that, because I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, so I definitely love to dive into this deeper with you, bro. But we mentioned how the movie starts and it's got a similar beat and pace to Superman, in that Superman does not waste time, which I love because it's how many times can you hear the story of Superman? Like, you hear the story of Superman even in other properties. You hear the story of Superman when you watch Dragon Ball. Like, that's the story of Superman, right? So let's not tread over that. And they did the same thing here. So the movie opens, and it basically, the Fantastic Four are already the Fantastic Four. And what you get is a montage of them saving people, which is, I thought was so cool, because I did see that there was going to be people like the Mole Man, and like a couple other villains. I forget the name of the villain that in that montage they were fighting, that was like coming, like the giant monster. Maybe that was just sort of like a monster that was created by the Mole Man, but like ultimately I think that was just kind of cool to just say, hey, it's this newsreel. And not only is it cool to just give us this montage and say, hey, this is what they've been doing for the past couple years, but also the montage itself felt grounded in that time period that they were trying to reflect, because the whole retro futuristic environment they were in, that setting was amazing. So just to go ahead and do that, like, hey, let's knock this out. Let's show you within a few minutes their place in this world, what they mean to the people in this world, and let's push forward. Because of that, I think that's why the movie gets to come in at like an hour and 55 minutes, I think is his runtime, which is one of those where it's like, shit, dude, like we'd been used to like 2 hour 20, 2 hour 30 minute Marvel movies. You know, Endgame was 3 hours, like, and now we're getting sub 2 hours in it. I think I know what you mean by that, because I did want more, because I was genuinely enjoying myself. But I think it's because we don't get the whole, let's spend 10 minutes of them preparing for the flight into space, and then another 10 minutes for the experience of them being in space and then getting hit with the cosmic rays, and then another 10 to 15 minutes with them realizing they have powers, and then another 10 to 15 minutes them realizing that they have to do good things with the powers, and then another, like, you know what I'm saying? They just axed all of it and said, this is what it is.
That's actually one of the things that I like the most about just the concept of the Fantastic Four themselves. It's their origin is so simple that it itself does not need to be done. Just to be a bit of a nostalgic person, the 90, I think it also might be 94 cartoon, it gives you their origin just in the song, the theme song itself. It's on a rocket. It's in a rocket ship adventure. They got hit by cosmic rays. Their forms changed forever in the most fantastic ways. That's the origin of the Fantastic Four.
I'm sorry, dude. Do you think that like that end song in the credits of Fantastic Four, do you think that they took that cue from the cartoon, because like that "Let Us Be Devoured" song?
I wanted
let's just explain Galactus in a country song.
That I wanted them to use the cartoon theme so bad during the credits. I was like, oh, please use that cartoon theme, but they didn't, and it's okay. But like that "Let's Be Devoured" song was weird. I felt like it should have been used like in the movie itself.
Yeah, I thought that would have been so cool.
It's crazy that Fox thought they needed to do the origin story twice. We know how.
Oh, you mean between 2015 and 2005 and 2015? Yeah.
Like, they went in space, got hit by some cosmic rays, got superpowers.
Yeah.
Even if Marvel had chosen to do it, it would have been like 3 minutes. And they were like, no, we don't need to do that. Instead, we've already been putting you into this like retro futurism, like aesthetic, this appeal of like 1960s, 1950s. Let's just give you this opening reel showing you like some really cool stuff. Admittedly, stuff I would have been like, that would have been cool for seeing. Like full scenes of.
Dude, yeah.
But the monster, I wish I remember his name. That comes like straight from a comic book cover. I think it's Fantastic Four #1.
Yeah.
But it's like, and then using characters that you knew you weren't ever going to really use. in the MCU.
As like a very prominent villain, right? Like, why'd you use Mole Man this way? I was hoping that in Fantastic Four 3, he was going to be the main villain.
Like, who wants to watch the Mole Man movie, right?
Dude.
Like, nobody wants to watch that. Like, we want to watch Galactus, Doom, Annihilus. I'm going to segment. I do think after the Doom stuff, I think Annihilus is their next go-to. And the reason I say that is because Disney and Marvel are really big fans of synergy throughout all of Marvel's like products. That being like whether it be toys, whether it be video games, whether it be cartoons, the comic books, and the movies. And if you and across all of their games, they're moving into an Annihilus situation, which makes me think that after the Emperor Doom stuff in the comic books, I kind of think they might start moving toward Annihilus, which makes me think that after Doom,
the movies will move
into Annihilus. Yeah. And having now introduced the Fantastic Four, which means that they will probably introduce at some point in time, like the Negative Zone, we're going to get Annihilus.
Mm-hmm.
Now to backtrack to the part about like Mole Man, and I think they cut somebody out of it, and I think he was supposed to be the Red Phantom, and I think his scene would have ultimately just been one of those scenes that was in the chop up.
They mentioned a villain during that montage, the Red something. Is that who you're the guy with the apes or
not to do with? I think it was to do with the apes, but there were all those characters. Those are people you aren't going to see.
Mm-hmm. I
really kind of wish that when they did Spider-Man, they would have kind of thought to do like maybe the same thing, like being like, cause who's to tell whenever they finally do the Sinister Six, right? If they ever truly do the Sinister Six, and Sony lets them do the Sinister Six within the MCU.
I feel like No Way Home was their version of trying to do like of doing the Sinister Six without saying that it was the Sinister Six.
But like introducing like Hammerhead or a Tombstone.
Yeah. Well, weren't there rumors? And I guess let's segment again here. Like, weren't there rumors of a very small time Spider-Man villain that's supposed to appear in Brand New Day? It's not. I want to say Baltrack the Leaper. It's not him. I know he appeared in Winter Soldier, but it's. Was it Boomerang or something? It was somebody who I was like, really? I just remember thinking.
I can imagine it being Boomerang.
That came out of left field,
or
but
maybe somebody goofy like Stiltman or Big Wheel.
Right, but I think to your point though, like those are the villains that you kind of just you either do a montage or you throw a newspaper down on a table and then it's like Spider-Man taken down. You know, you don't need to spend
like
precious time.
And then like they did that perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, that's great. Now we're going to move into and it's great because it gave you this, and we were kind of talking about it yesterday, like it gave you a Fantastic Four who admittedly were full of themselves. They were like, nobody challenged them enough.
Yeah.
In their world, in the 828. What do you do when you get essentially like what equate to like four gods coming down, and the best they can do is Mole Man or the Tinkerer or something like that?
Yeah.
Like they had no trouble stopping anyone. I mean, at one point, Reed literally just sets the cops up to be like, yeah, they're like four different syndicates thinking they're about to do something.
Yeah.
Let's just nip that in the bud right now. And admittedly, Ben said something there that could have really pointed towards like a bit of like inner like turmoil amongst them, but then it just immediately got played off as if like what he did didn't matter. And it's so funny because in effect it was parallel to Tony.
Yeah.
In
like creating a suit of armor or wanting to create a suit of armor around the world.
Like him saying like you're baby proofing the world.
Mm-hmm.
It could have immediately been like, that's some stuff. And they point kind of multiple times to like a good old classic. I shouldn't even say classic, like kind of more of a modern Reed. The Reed that is a bit less personable and very more like anxiety driven.
Mm-hmm.
That like he wants to solve all the problems before they ever happen, and that's a big thing with him. Kind of like currently, and that's why so often him and Sue like butt heads, and you end up seeing Sue like with Namor,
yeah,
stuff like that. So it makes me think like, oh, I think that is the read that they're giving us.
Yeah,
that read that is just kind of like he's a dick.
Yeah,
he can be a dick, but he's also like an incredibly smart and like caring person. But he just doesn't do the things. I shouldn't say the right way, just the way that we expect a person to be, and he thinks it's because he thinks he's so smart that he's above it.
I also think that he's also steeped in what he feels are good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the justification that's needed, which is again parallel to what you mentioned with Tony. That it's not really about whose rights am I trampling on. Is this ethical? But it's just more like he even says it like I invite the most dangerous things into my head so that other people don't have to face it. So to a degree, you can look at that and say, well, that's admirable, that's noble, but at what cost? Because, and I know we'll get to this in I guess I don't want to skip ahead to this part, but there definitely was a part where I, for a moment there, was like, he's really about to do this. He's about to make this decision, and then it was giving me anxiety. Of thinking about it, especially as you have watched over the course of that movie, their relationship and the chemistry between them all, and you just don't want that relationship to go that direction.
I figured that part. I apologize. It's almost been 30 minutes.
Oh wow!
Spoiler alerts. A lot has been spoiled already.
Yes.
I
guess we just got to put it in the description or something, dude. Just like, hey, this is heavy.
Yeah.
Add it to the title.
Yeah, we just put heavy spoilers in the
title. Yeah.
Yeah. If you somehow bypassed all that and then got upset, like, damn, they just fucking just been spoiling shit for me. Spoiler alert at this point.
Yes.
Because I'm just going to go into what he was about to say. I'm assuming it was the part where he looked at Franklin and it really did look like he was about to be like, I'm not giving this kid
toss him up. Yeah, dude. I was like, he's really about to do this. His back is against the wall because he'd already at that. And for reference, so basically in the movie, and I also wanted to mention this because to me, it related back to the comment that you made about how full of themselves they were. Mm-hmm. Because after Silver Surfer, after Shia LaBeouf comes down and says, you're marked for death, this is what's about to happen, and then just peels out, the conversation that they have afterwards of how quickly they're moving is like, okay, can this be up in 16 hours? Okay, we're doing this. And it, to me, that's kind of reminiscent of that reference that you made of being a little full of yourself. It's you have no idea what you're running into. Mm-hmm. You have no idea where this person came from, who it is that they herald. All you know is a name. And you're just like, yeah, 16 hours, we'll just fly up there. You're holding press conferences to tell everybody, to tell the world that everything's going to be cool.
I mean, like, literally up until the point that they get basically up until the point that they get to the planet that Galactus is in the middle of eating. And I kind of, it's always done differently, whether it's even in the comic books or if it's in different movies. I kind of was wishing it was just a gigantic Galactus, like with a knife and a fork, eating on the planet. It's like, I know you wouldn't do that.
What?
Very like.
I'm sorry, dude. Is he like at an old country buffet?
He's just sitting there, like he's like in his like big chair, and he's just sitting there, just like carving little slices.
Just going. Dude, he's got a bib that says like "Eat at Joe's."
They get to the planet, and it's just a big knife carves through the part of it, and then he just pokes it with a fork and goes.
You like see the fucking pyramids just getting cut in half. Like, what is he doing?
I would have loved it, but they don't see.
It's like an episode of Is It Cake?
There because he's burrowed in through the other side of it, I guess. Anyway, they are basically full of themselves up until the point that happens. Like even on the trip there, like Reed's like, all right, if he's just a big guy in a ship, you can punch him out. And it's like that's all they've been doing, and it works extremely well because when they are humbled and brought back down, Reed goes into just a full-on despair panic because and he even says to himself that even says essentially like, I can't prepare for something that has never needed to be prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Like, I can't solve something that's never been
Has no
solved.
precedent, right?
Like, has no precedent. Like, because their precedent is just Ben punches, Johnny sets on fire, Sue either protects or flings, and Reed stretches around.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's been very successful for them because they're facing the Mole Man or super orangutans or like the toy maker or the tinkerer. Like, they're not facing people who are any type of what we could call an Avenger level threat.
Right.
And Galactus is beyond an Avenger level threat. He's like a Marvel level threat in which the entire like consensus of the superhero community needs to be able to get around to be like, hey, like Captain America ain't about to solve the Galactus threat.
Correct. Right.
So,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, dude. Like, Vibranium's not helping no one here.
That's my favorite guy, but like, he ain't about to. He's not single-handedly stopping Thanos or like Galactus.
Yeah.
So
we'll have his moments.
So what they get there and they're just like, okay. They get in there. They see how big he is.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, Ben's like, well, I cannot punch something that big. And then Johnny's been being Johnny this entire time, but at the same time, he can't do much because they're in space. And so they get humbled, but they get away.
Yes.
And the crazy part, I wanted to laugh at it. That elevator on the ship took so long to get down when they were like going to Galactus. They get in that thing. That elevator shot snapped up.
Dude, Herbie
it's like
put the
it itself knew that they
dude.
needed to get out of there.
Yeah. And so to tie it back to the decision that Reed has to make, basically when they go to Galactus, and Galactus is just, holy crap, he is imposing. And which naturally is going to be the case for a guy that big, but like the way they do it in the film, it's terrifying, honestly. Like, if I saw something like that, dude, there'd be so much doo-doo in my jaws, man. But basically Reed goes there and he says, we came here to negotiate, essentially, like to try to save our world. And Galactus knows that Sue is pregnant. But what neither of them knows, and what they assume, is that the baby is just going to be a normal baby. And of course, spoiler alert again, it's not going to be a normal baby because the baby's mom is Invisible Woman and his father is Mr. Fantastic. So it turns out that their son to be is going to have like a cosmic level of power that is like hitherto undreamt of. We're going to Doctor Strange terms. And Galactus says, I will spare your world if you give me your child. So from there, it's like, no, I'm not doing that. Which leads into one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. But it is that decision that towards the end of the movie, you're watching Reed, and there's even a moment where after they have made it back to Earth, and he's pondering it and he's saying it, and but Sue Storm is looking at him. And she knows, like, she's seen this before. She's seen the gears turning, and she's like, I already know where your mind is going. And as an audience member, you're asking yourself, like, oh, are they really going to go this route? Are they really going to do it right now?
Yeah. One thing I also really liked, and I kind of feel like it wasn't so much the case in the Fox movies, all four of them are intelligent.
Yes.
Like, Reed is super intelligent, yes, but, like, the other three are not just like some dummies with powers.
Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Like, Sue is intelligent.
Ben is
understands.
intelligent.
Ben is intelligent. Johnny is intelligent. And
which I think also it gives much more. It makes more sense when one of the things in the beginning of the movie, when basically you see the movie when it pops off, is like this home movie like footage of them preparing for the trip to space that would have given them their powers. So you don't actually see the trip to space, and you don't need to, but you hear a voiceover of Reed Richards, and one of the things he says is, on this trip I happened to invite, these are the people I wanted to invite, the greatest minds, which also happened to be my best friend, my wife, and my brother-in-law. And to your point, you see that throughout the movie, and it is so amazing. And that they allow everybody to have their time.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to say, they can't. I now want to see a Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends moment, but I know it can't really happen, which kind of annoys me.
What do you mean?
So all like because of Johnny,
Yeah.
like it would have been cool if like there was a Johnny like in Brand New Day, because I think in Brand New Day he's supposed to be in college, right? So he goes to Empire State, but so do Johnny and Bobby, and it would have been really cool if there was something in Brand New Day where it was like all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not gonna happen.
That would
Kevin,
be awesome.
if you think you could do it, try to
Please.
do it. But back to the they were all four of them were smart. So like when Sue saw the like what was happening in his brain, it wasn't just because she knows Reed. It's also because she knows logically that was the best plan. It's just that unlike Reed, who does function, he functions almost entirely through logic. She does have the empathy to say, like, hey, like I don't want to really go along with this, but I know we have to. And considering they had just had that argument before where him and his like logic addled brain said like, because so it should be stated that after they get back, they have their secondary humble moment where Earth is like, "Hey man, how'd you beat Galactus? Like you just punched him, you just knocked him out, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, we didn't." Actually, the planet didn't even know that Galactus is a man.
Yeah.
It's just like, how'd you defeat Galactus?
Which is so funny because it reinforces what you were just talking about their, with their how full of themselves they were, like leading into that the reporter was so confident. He just knew. Mm-hmm. He just knew that Galactus was,
and I mean, because they
defeated.
didn't come back in like a way that looked like they got beat. It took them a long time to get back, but it didn't look like they got beat. So they're like, okay. It just took them a month to get out there and back, but like they obviously stopped the dude. He ain't here eating us, right?
Right.
So they're like, Reed doesn't know what to say, and Ben's just like, nah, we didn't beat him. They're like, him? Like, yeah, we ain't beat that big guy.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean you didn't beat him?
Is it Johnny that said, like, Johnny that chimes in? He goes, "Not yet." He tries.
Yeah,
he's
like, not yet. We haven't beaten him yet. And everybody's like, "Well, hold on now. You usually just stomp the threat out like immediately. There's no after lingering like thoughts here. What's going on?" And they're just like, I mean, this is some uncharted territory we're in. And then they all like get away. So that basically turns the populace of Earth against them because Reed, not being a people person, lets out why they did not beat him and why he's still going to be coming anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the world turns on Franklin. If the world knew how powerful Franklin was, they would not turn on Franklin. But Franklin is also like a 1-month-old baby at this point.
Right.
So the Franklin, I'll get into Franklin later, hopefully. But the world is turned on them and they're getting upset. They're getting scared. They are rightfully so to be scared.
Right.
Like you just got told by your saviors that they couldn't save you. Like the same thing kind of happens in Superman, but in a sense, the world just turns on Superman because they now think he's evil, even though he's been doing good for them for so long. And that same thing kind of happens here, where like everyone's like, you've been doing good by us for so long. Why now? So they want the Fantastic Four to give up Franklin, and it takes Sue essentially being like, hey, like, no, like, this is my baby. I'm not giving up my baby, but I'm also not giving up you guys.
Right.
Like, our plan is to save you all. It isn't just to save ourselves and the world kind of should have known that, because, I mean, you didn't see the Fantastic Four get back into the ship and just, like, fly off. So they're obviously here for the long run. But they're all just scared. So when they see that they're scared, Reed points it out and he says logically they should be. Like, and the most logical course of events would be to just give Franklin up. I mean, after all, it is just one child versus
all of
7
humanity,
billion people, right? And so, Sue wasn't having that, but I think it's also because she understood that is the most logical thing. But mothers and fathers don't think logically against the well wishes of their own children. So when they get back to that point where they're like, okay, we're going to use him as bait now, it was at that point I was like, huh. Now, there is one thing I will kind of say about the movie. It was a great story, but I think it was such a good story that there wasn't a lot of action. And for 4 individuals who have the power sets that they do, you would think there would have been more action.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like kind of reserved for the montage at the beginning, the little part with Galactus and Silver Surfer kind of towards the middle, and then like the very end.
Yeah.
And as a result, you just didn't get to see them really just do like Fantastic Four shit until like they needed to be able to start doing Fantastic. I say that knowing that like the way that they were just handling the situation is very Fantastic Four of them, but I wanted to see more, especially from Ben. Ben was a great character throughout the movie, but it felt like he kind of got underutilized as like the Thing, because so often they just never needed his brawn for anything or his durability. It just kind of came and went when they were like, maybe we can get out this situation unless like Ben did something.
Yeah.
Whereas like Johnny got a lot of time to be flying around as the Human Torch, and the movie really centered itself on Sue. And not just Sue as like the character, but Sue as in her abilities. Like Sue was constantly either like doing stuff to go invisible, using her barriers, using her telepathy, and people really do kind of forget how powerful Sue can be as a telepath. Because obviously people, when you think of telepathy in the Marvel universe, you kind of think of the mutants. You think like, well,
Emma Frost,
Jean Grey,
Charles Xavier,
but people kind of just forget how strong Sue can be in terms of like using her telepathy to move things. And that was kind of what I was saying yesterday, was like, she's going to be a problem in the MCU because like what she does, which is like another spoiler warning, I guess, like she pushes Galactus. Like this isn't like this isn't Captain Marvel and the Scarlet Witch pushing around Thanos. This isn't like Mantis doing things in the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is Galactus. This man eats planets. He is gigantic.
Yes.
He is taller than skyscrapers. And she not only initially held him, but then turned him around and started pushing him.
Yeah.
All with her telepathy. And like, she's someone who would have, like, obviously it cost her. And it's great that they did that to say, like, there is a limit. And
yes.
So I know it's not going to be something she does constantly. Kind of the way they like did with like Sentry, where they're like, let me show you off Sentry, and now let me never do that again, because he would solve threats too easily. But I think the next I say the next time is going to be like a big threat. We're getting into Doom. But I think the next time there's that like Avengers Endgame level thing, either Sue is not going to be around, or they're going to like, the Russos are going to like punt her off somewhere where she can't just like do stuff like she just did.
Yeah, that was a crazy display of power. I will say though, like, it's funny you bringing that up about the lack of action, because I was telling Matt earlier today that there was a review that came up. I was notified on Threads, and this guy was basically like, I hate to say it, but Superman was better than Fantastic Four because it just had more action. And then, like, that was the only like justification that he had in it, which was like Superman had more action, therefore is better. And to me, I'm not saying that like one or the other was better. I really enjoy both of these films. Like, seriously, I would go back today and just go watch them back to back. But for me, like, lack of action isn't necessarily, at least anymore, what will take me out of it. I think when I was like younger, that was I would like watch a movie, and if it didn't have as many action sequences as I wanted, it would very much hamper it. But when you offset with the kind of chemistry that you're able to present, I'm good. I will sit back and just kind of watch these characters unravel, because on one hand, I love like a very action oriented superhero film. 100%, give me. But I also like to watch, Quentin Tarantino movies where not really much happens. There's just people talking, or like just movies where it's about the characters and you just see these people, like Lighthouse, for instance. I know it's a random example, but Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, like there's not a lot of action that happens there. It's just like a strange movie, but the way they work together, like I'm there for that experience. And so I think for me, if they didn't have who they had in those roles, or if they didn't execute the same way that Pedro, Vanessa, Joseph, and Iban did, that lack of action would have hurt me so much more. Just because it's like, what am I watching then? Mm-hmm. Like if this was Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, like Michael Chiklis, and other guy. With that, I'm like, and maybe that's also why those didn't really work all that much.
Because they didn't have like really good chemistry. Like Chris really stood out.
Oh
like a big way in his movies.
It's Chris.
But to that guy's like credit, I guess I can understand if you're not someone who like if you go to movies just to have the lights blare in your face, I can understand being like, I liked Superman more than Fantastic Four. What
Fair.
We were kind of saying earlier, and I think I said yesterday, there are similar beats to both movies, and it's very weird. Like, and it's almost kind of in the way that I was talking about like months ago when we watched Mickey 17 and
it was a Death of a Unicorn. Yeah,
where like here we have two superhero movies, both of which do not dwell on their origins. And we get into both movies years into their like time being superheroes. Both are dealing with a gigantic threat, which it's a superhero movie. Of course, you're going to be dealing with a gigantic threat. But in this case, both had black holes in them that looked the exact same like black hole. Like they both pulled it from the same like source. Both had situations in which the city needed to evacuate because of the threat.
Both had situations where you're like saving a baby.
Yeah, like what? It's so weird how kind of similar the two movies are,
and they come out 2 weeks apart.
Yeah, 2 weeks apart. Both dealing with like essentially the origin character of success for their respective like comic book company.
Yeah.
Like, sure, Marvel existed as, like, Atlas and Timely beforehand, doing things with, like, the Defender, or the the Invaders, like Captain America, Namor, Bucky, John Hammond, Human Torch, and stuff. But it's the Fantastic Four that really jumped Marvel off in the 60s, the way that Superman did for DC Comics in, like, the 40s. I mean, I know he came beforehand, but like it was really the 40s where he popped off, like during the boom of comic books and like during World War II period. So yeah, it's so weird that happened, and it's great that we got both of them, and you don't have to compare the two because they were just both good movies unto themselves.
Yeah,
and both one is birthing essentially a cinematic universe, and it feels like the other just exists within it without really trying to do much. I do recall reading that the director was told that they didn't have to tie the Fantastic Four into it, and that it got to be standalone. So like that's why the end credit scene is the way it is, because they were not tasked with like continuing the next like big story beat in a way that like, so like I think that's why we didn't get the story of what occurred at the end of Thunderbolts, is how did the Fantastic Four just randomly show up.
Good point. Because I was gonna say, like, you know, you get that sense right from the jump when it cuts to Earth and it's like Earth 838. But then I'm like, oh, okay, well, just because they say that it's Earth 838 doesn't mean that they don't try to in some way like bridge dimensions and go to a different universe where now you're at the main universe for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because they could have definitely still did that. And to your point, yeah, I did find myself thinking, especially leading into this movie, okay, one of those post-credit scenes, or at least the very ending of this movie, is going to have to in some way be the launching pad for, you know, what happens at the end of Thunderbolts, then what goes into Doomsday. And it didn't.
No.
It was just
But I do think, and we kind of talked about this before, like what that in credit for Thunderbolts meant. And I really do think it is. So I think I theorized back then it was that they were running. But now I think it might be that they're chasing. I do still think it has to do with incursions 100%. That's the only reason that Doom would have shown up.
Oh, do you think he took Franklin and then came?
And is headed, and that's why they're chasing.
Yeah.
So they talk about the multiverse in the beginning of the movie, in which Reed does talk about the fact that he understands that there are multiple universes. They show Latveria during the Future Foundation. I'm going to use quotes on that because that's not exactly how the Future Foundation worked in the comic books.
Right.
But like during the Future Foundation scene, they showed like a desk for Latveria, but there was nobody there for it. Now, obviously, Doom wouldn't be chilling at the.
Hopefully not, like a chancellor, like an ambassador.
Like he's not their ambassador. He is the ruler of them. Like there are ambassadors for Latveria. You just don't see him very much. But I don't think that the Tony Stark Doom is from Earth 828. I think the Tony Stark Doom comes from a different Earth and has been causing incursions, and it's just now happened to be on Earth 828.
So, segment. One of my favorite DC animated movies was when they go to, I forget what Earth it was, but where there is and I'm not talking about the Injustice storyline, but the Injustice Society, where it's Ultraman, like Owlman, Crime Syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's Earth 3.
And if I remember correctly, Owlman's plan was to like blow up Earth Prime because doing that would basically unravel the entire multiverse, and that would end everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think they're going for something similar in that the main Marvel Cinematic Universe that we're familiar with all of the characters that we've been, growing old with for like the past 20 years, that is the prime Earth, and that if he causes an incursion that overlaps with that one, that it is a wipe, slate clean, rebuild the universe?
So, if I were to go off of the comics, I would say no.
Okay.
Because in Marvel, there is no like prime Earth.
Okay.
But for the MCU, I think there is. And I think during Loki season 2, they like point out that essentially like the 616 universe.
Oh, I need to watch that.
Has its like okay. Well.
I've not seen Loki season 2.
I believe that they say something to the effect that they're like, because we know about like essentially like canon events, and that's why the TVA existed, for like when a canon event produced a like an aberrant that shouldn't be around. But I think they do say something to the effect that the people like, oh no, maybe it was during Deadpool and Wolverine that the TVA said that there are like essentially like prime people that like, I think they like point out like Captain America or something like that as being like a person that always exists or something like that, but that the 616 variant of him was like the prime one, that if something had happened to him, then like stuff would have got fucked up on like other Earths, and that was why that whole like storyline happened. But so they could be, but it also could be that just Doom is being Doom and it's causing the incursions to essentially create a new Earth in which he is the ruler of it, which would be very comic booky. And with this movie, it just feels like they moved super into comic booky, like territory.
Which is like another beat of Superman, because Superman was not shy to go anti-proton rivers and sucked into black holes and a flying dog with super strength. And
yeah, it's exactly like I said during the Superman review, where I said they never felt like they ever had to explain anything. Now it's funny because I ended that with saying like in the MCU they would have needed to explain the kaiju, but like in the Fantastic Four they would not have explained it at all. It would have just been a thing.
Which it reminds me, like when I back in film school, there was this. I remember one of my professors brought up this idea that I never really thought about. I think maybe it was always just kind of there, but I never gave just conscious effort into thinking about it, but the willing suspension of disbelief, that is what all of us go into the movies.
Mm-hmm.
There should automatically be a willing suspension of disbelief. Now, I'm not saying that there can't be some incongruencies where a person is creating this world that's built upon their rules of how physics work, and then they disobey that, and that's a whole other thing. But like the willing suspension of disbelief being, dude, it's a movie. You're accepting that this is a fantastical and whimsical world, that it doesn't work the way that your world works. Like, get frustrated again if they build a rule and then break that rule, their own physics. But like, don't go in and be like, well, that movie was stupid. I don't know what an anti-proton. You don't need to, because you'll never come across it. You're not gonna go to, Yosemite National Park and be like, oh, dude, it's an anti-proton river or anti-proton geyser. Like, when is that gonna go ahead and shoot off? You just kind of accept that there's going to be some weird stuff happening.
That was what, like, that's why I kind of didn't understand why the Fast and Furious series gets the flack that it does. Like, people are like, you can't go off in this. Like, of course you, in real life, you can't go off into space with a car.
Yeah.
But this series also has dudes who flex out of casts and like hold helicopters with chains.
That's true, but I think what's jarring, in my opinion, is the fact that they were just street racing. Like, to me,
but yes, they were street racing, but we didn't know what could have happened outside of their street races. We just saw like the very small like sliver that they showed us. We don't know if in the greater landscape of the Fast and the Furious universe, which is why I think they were trying to get you with like Hobbs and Shaw. Where you're like, hey man, when they like that street racing is happening over there, but in this world there are dudes who can hold up.
Mm-hmm.
They can grab missiles and throw them and like fall from like 5 stories up and land on a car and be okay.
I think what it is like in a situation like Fast and Furious, and maybe this is my own issue, but when I go into a film like that, especially like the first and second one, it seems so much of it, because of what it revolves around, like just like drag racing, just like, normal adult human drama. I go into those films and I just think, oh, it's just like like some kind of slight off representation of our world. So then in my mind I start, okay, well, it's just going to operate by these rules. And then it branches out and it's like, oh, no, that's not that. And so maybe that's my thing. I just need to kind of unwire it and think, okay, like maybe I shouldn't have gone into the first movie just thinking that this is just like a normal world, like our world. Like I would hear people drag racing in the streets of downtown Cincinnati. Like, and then unbeknownst to me, they're also helping stave off like World War III because there's a giant dude built like The Rock who's like 6'5", 275, just like manhandling torpedoes. I have a question though, like back to Fantastic Four. I don't know what like the capacity of Reed's powers, but like I guess I thought that he had a little bit more stretchiness to him. Because when the scene where Thanos is pulling him apart, I was like, oh, I thought
Galactus is a gigantic man.
That's true, yes. But I'm just saying, like, I thought that.
How far do you think you can, like, if you compare their sizes, it was like Big Show stretching out a Stretch Armstrong toy. Like,
okay. I guess I am thinking, like, to scale, it will be slightly different. I don't know, like, I guess I'm, like, so used to seeing. We're thinking about, for instance, I think it was the 2005 movie where he just like wraps himself around Ben like 800 times. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, he's pretty long.
I mean, he can stretch pretty far.
Yeah.
I think they held back his stretching in this movie.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, is that it feels like they.
Which, that's fine. I think just for the sake of making it still be able to look good, because I think if he had stretched him too far, I think the CGI would have really started showing you like, no. But also, apparently, there was more practical effects than I thought there were. So, Galactus is played by Ralph Ineson. And a lot of the part like where he lands in the water and starts to walk through it is practical. It's got CG layers over it, obviously.
Yeah,
he was explaining in an interview that like they put him in a white room and he walked like through a scale model like white room, like the buildings were all white so that they could obviously like CGI on top of it. But like all that stuff was to scale for him, and so he just did his thing, and then they just put CGI on top of it.
That's so cool. I also heard that Herbie was actually just, oh my gosh, Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how Superman used real robots. Like I heard that Herbie is a real bot in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very. Both use retrofuturism as a. Now, I will say that the retrofuturism in Superman is more like an Art Deco style of retrofuturism, but they both utilize like a concept of like bringing the past into the present. That just it worked for both movies.
I guess in what way was like the past brought into the present for Superman?
For Superman, though, like I said, like the Art Deco style of like the robots. Like obviously, like in the way that his robots look nothing like the Hammer of Boravia, which looked much more like a more modern take on like a robot, even though it was a man in armor. But nobody knew it was a man in armor, especially since he never shows the fuck back up after the play with Superman. But I mean, it's much the retrofuturism is much more impactful in Fantastic Four, and that was because that's what they were going for, and it worked so well. And obviously, when they come into this period or this 616 universe, it's going to be more interesting for them than I think it was for Captain America, because it's hard, like we were questioning it yesterday, like when is it actually taking place? Like, is it taking place in Earth 828, but in the 60s of Earth 828? Or is it just 2025, but it just looks like it could be 1965? And I think that's intentionally makes it hard to tell, and we probably won't be able to tell it until they finally show up in a movie where there are other people in a different universe that isn't all retrofuturistic looking. And then they'll probably be like, this isn't like our Earth.
I wonder if they're going to do the whole No Way Home, like, you were part of the Avengers? What is that?
I think there will be a moment of them asking, like,
what is that? Yeah.
But what the question I kind of have, and I'm going to leave this as kind of my final question, is, well, not my final question, because I'm going to ask you your final thoughts. But before that is the Council of Reeds. So we know that there was like the Council of Kings.
Yes.
And before Jonathan Major did that thing. But so the Council of Reeds makes me wonder if there is a Reed Richards in Earth 616. Because we've now had 2 Reed Richards in the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be kind of a question. And it makes me wonder if between Doomsday and Secret Wars, if they don't try to interject one of the Fox Fantastic Four Reeds into it, since we've already seen Chris's Human Torch. So it makes me wonder if we will get the Council of Reeds and what that might mean, because Reed is they're gonna have to have that like out of time like moment, I would assume. They're not. It would be weird for them to just instantly be like, "Yep, everything makes sense. We're here now. That looks correct to us." So it makes me wonder if like there might be a Reed on Earth 616 already, and he just hasn't either shown himself or hasn't gone up into space to get hit by cosmic rays and transform into the most fantastic ways.
That's a good question. I don't think that universe has a Reed. I think much like how in their Fantastic Four's universe, there's no one else but them. I think there's like somehow it's just like one that just happened to get missed. Is the Fantastic Four they were just an omission from?
Like,
because they already have like a bunch
people
of
don't show like you think there just isn't a Reed, Sue, Storm, and Ben, or do you think they could exist but they just didn't go up into space?
I don't think that they exist at all. And I mainly say that just because it's we were talking about Reed's powers and how I don't want to say that they were nerfed because ultimately he doesn't need to, I think to your point, stretch like crazy. I don't like he used it fine in the movie. Like I was okay with it. With his real power is his mind. And I think that if somebody existed in that universe that had a mind like that, that is a mind, in my opinion, that rivals Tony's. And I just kind of would assume that at some point, this person either would have built a company that maybe was referenced in the MCU sometime, throughout their films, or that this person would have, even if they didn't go out to space and get hit with cosmic rays, that would have been on Earth doing something that would have made them a prominent figure in that universe. But I could be wrong. Just like an assumption.
I mean, the reason I just kind of like question it, well, that part that you kind of said, is just simply because no one else has like tried to rival Tony, despite the fact that in the MCU there is a Hank Pym and there is Bruce Banner, like two people who are on the top 10 list of smartest people in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
and they didn't ever try to really rival Tony's intelligence. Like the MCU tried to make it like Tony is the outright just smartest person around, and even past his death it feels like no one has really tried to tackle being the next smartest person. I guess Riri to like some degree has tried to, but like for the most part no, right? So is it just possible that Reed exists and Reed's been doing things, he just hasn't but because Tony existed and Tony became Iron Man so early on and it's done all these things, that Reed just was like, all right, I don't need to do anything.
He's just like sitting at home stretching his fingers.
Yeah. But so now to my final question, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts. I want to see it again. That is, just how much I enjoyed it. And there were sequences that left me in awe. I think that them heading to Galactus to meet was such an amazing visual experience to see that engine, his planet, his ship come through that planet, and they're looking at in the music they used, and then like the scale, how they showed their ship and the size of that, and how it just blew through it. And it's not only when stuff like that happens, it's not only like what it like looks like visually that gets me, it's how they've built up into that moment, because it makes it even more impactful when like everything that we talked about so far with where their minds were and where their egos were and confidence were like leading into this moment. And it's so perfectly quickly shuts everything down that you as an audience member, you're like, oh, this isn't about to be what it's been for them for the past 2 years. Like this is wrong. Like this is terrifying. And then the sequence that it goes into after that, and seeing Silver Surfer kind of get sucked into the black. I thought that was so cool. I very much love the fact that because they didn't have to spend so much time on origin story, that they were able to balance and show the lives of some of the others. I do think that, to your point, that to a degree, Ebon and Thing kind of got like the shorter end of the stick though, because I would have liked to see him deal more. Well, he had a decent amount of screen time, but it's just more so I would like to see him deal with the fact that he's the only one of them that can't turn it on and off. Mm-hmm. Like he just has to exist like that. And like, what does that mean for his life when he walks around? Which is kind of cool though, because I guess you see the kids and they're like, oh, like pick this up. But it does make you wonder when he walks past that TV and he sees his former life, he sees that reflection of his former self. Like, what is he going through? And I would love to see that explored more in subsequent films. Overall, I think, the movie's a hit. It was a graveyard smash. We did the mash. Your thoughts?
I love the movie. I definitely feel like new jumping off point. Honestly, I feel like people, like, if you haven't been in the MCU at all, and this could be the movie that you see and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I get
I'm back.
To your point about the Thing, it feels like they actually kind of went out of their way to like not make it a thing.
It seemed like yeah.
Like Reed like apologized for it in the movie, but Ben was like, there was no need to apologize. It's like he just already accepted it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's been a few years. I mean, hell, like, there isn't even an Alicia in the movie. And instead, there's a lady named Rachel who can see just fine.
Yeah.
And she was.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, it makes me wonder if they're saving that more for later, when maybe because it's only been the four of them and they're treated like celebrities. And I think maybe it has to do with that celebrity status, that he hasn't had to worry about like being so physically changed. But what happens when you're not in your world anymore, and suddenly people are looking at you a lot different because you don't look like Captain America. You don't look like, the only person you look kind of like is the Hulk, and we don't like the Hulk all the time. So I think that'll be a bit more prevalent going forward. And they've already set up the scapegoat for like not using Franklin's powers. So it'll be interesting to see if going forward, like in these like bigger Avengers movies, if the Russos ever touch it. I don't think they will. They don't really like touching uber powerful like problem solvers like that. But him being a kid makes me wonder if we might see the I can never remember the name of the group, but the superpowered kids. There's like it's not the Young Avengers. This is like younger than the Young Avengers.
Oh.
And like we always say his name is Franklin Richards, but he actually has a superhero name. It's Powerhouse. And
aptly named. That's
it's like the I forget the name of it. But it'll be interesting to see if we ever like see them ever show up. But it'd also be interesting to see if Valeria is ever born.
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with Valeria.
Valeria is the second child of Reed and Sue.
Oh, okay.
She has a very much more, I shouldn't say much more interesting story than Franklin, but she's also got a very interesting story just simply because she's as smart as Reed, but she doesn't have powers. One could say maybe her intelligence is her power, and that she's like a mutant that is just really smart, but like she's as intelligent as Reed. And when she was born, she was actually birthed by Dr. Doom. So Dr. Doom is her godfather, unlike Franklin. Like he's only the godfather of Valeria, and as such, she actually has a close relationship with Doom, and is very willing to like walk away from like the Fantastic Four to like just hang out with Dr. Doom. But I love this movie. I want to see it again as well, just to see if there's anything that I was like kind of missing. I was like really trying to like pay attention like pretty hard to like small things, but very interested to see where they go from here. Obviously, the next movie for them seems to be Doomsday. I can't even really think how many movies there are in between now and Doomsday.
There's nothing.
Right? Is Doomsday
the
next one?
because I think that there was something that came out where I think Doomsday was supposed to come out in May, I think originally, of next year. But then we got pushed back to December.
Did they not push Doomsday back and push up Brand New Day?
Can you Google when Brand New Day comes out? I thought that meant, or maybe it was that you were just gonna have to wait a year and a half until. Oh, okay. So I guess we have Brand New Day next July. All right, cool.
So I mean, they're
so
not
just
showing
one
up
thing.
on Brand New Day, but anyway, if you guys have seen the movie, let us know what you thought in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe. Let others know that you enjoyed it. Let others know that you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, thumbs up if you did, thumbs down if you didn't, and if you didn't, just be like, hey, this is what I didn't like about y'all, and we'll try to fix it.
Yeah, and if we can't, if it's something crazy,
Man, if it's I need you gone.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna listen to that one too much, but thank you guys for listening.
Absolutely.
To another episode of Panharmonicon presents
a podcast.
This has been Damon,
and this is Farron,
and thank you guys for listening.
Bye. See you in the next one.
Fantastic Four.